You ever lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the amazing things you want to do with your life, but then spend the next day binge-watching a show you don't even like that much? You know what you should be doing, yet you don't do it. You put things off. You scroll, binge-watch, or distract yourself. It's one of the most frustrating feelings in the world, knowing you've got big dreams, knowing you're capable of more, but being stuck in this loop of doing basically nothing. And then the guilt shows up. That annoying voice in your head that says, "Wow, another day wasted. Guess you'll just never change." And that guilt doesn't just sting in the moment it piles up. Day after day, week after week, until it feels like your ambition is this heavy backpack you're carrying around, full of stuff you're not using. You start thinking, maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe this is just who I am. But let me stop you right there. You are not lazy. How do I know? Because lazy people don't watch videos like this. Lazy people don't spend their free time searching for ways to fix their life. Ambitious people do. Lazy people aren't ambitious. You are. What's happening isn't laziness. What's happening is inertia. And once you understand that, everything changes. But before we talk about inertia, let's quickly address why the usual advice doesn't work. Because you've heard it all before, right? Delete Instagram. Turn your phone off. Remove distractions. Buy a productivity planner that costs $40 and promises to change your life in 30 days. Maybe you've even tried a few of those, and they work for a week. Then you're right back where you started. That's because those things are surface-level fixes. They treat the symptoms but not the root cause. It just leaves you sitting in silence with the same thoughts, the same resistance, and the same lack of energy. So, what's actually going on? Let's talk about inertia. In physics, inertia is basically the law that things at rest want to stay at rest, and things in motion want to stay in motion. That's Newton's first law. And yeah, it's about objects, but it's also about you. Because starting a task feels exactly like trying to push a parked car. When it's still, it feels impossible to move. You lean into it. You push with all your strength. And for a while, nothing happens. But then if you keep pushing, the car finally moves a little. And once it's rolling, suddenly, it's easier. In fact, if the road is downhill, you barely need to push at all. That's your life. That's your goals. Writing a book, starting a business, getting in shape, making new friends. They all feel impossible at first because you're stuck in that resting state. But once you get going, even just a little, it's way easier to keep going. And the funny part? Your brain makes the starting line look scarier than it really is. Think back to a time you were dreading something. Maybe writing an essay in school. You avoided it, complained about it, stressed over it. Then when you finally started, you realized, wait, this isn't actually that bad. That's inertia. The hardest part isn't the work itself. It's getting into motion. So the question isn't, how do I stop being lazy? It's, how do I break inertia? And that's exactly what we're about to figure out. I want to share 3 practical ways to do this. They're simple, but they work because they're designed around how your brain actually operates. The first strategy is to lower the entry fee. Most of us fail before we even start because the task feels too expensive, like the cost of entry is too high. If you tell yourself, I need to sit down and write an entire book, your brain is like, absolutely not. Too hard. But if you tell yourself, I'll just write 1 bad sentence today, suddenly the entry fee is small enough to pay. Same thing with working out. You don't have to start with an hour-long workout. Just say, I'll put on my sneakers and do 5 squats. That's it. And once you've started, something amazing happens. You usually keep going, because the real problem wasn't the squats. It was just getting over that mental wall of starting. I used to trick myself this way in college. I hated writing essays. The idea of 3,000 words felt like climbing Mount Everest. So instead of saying, I have to write an essay, I'd say, I'll just write the world's worst introduction paragraph. That was it. Once I typed out a rough intro, I was like, well, I'm already here. Might as well write a little more. And before I knew it, I had a full draft. The second strategy is the 2-minute rule. If lowering the entry fee is about making the task smaller, this is about making the time commitment laughably tiny. Tell yourself, I'll do this for 2 minutes. Just 2. You want to learn guitar? Play for 2 minutes. You want to clean your room? Clean one corner for 2 minutes. You want to read more? Read 1 page. What happens is, you trick your brain into starting. 2 minutes is nothing, so there's no resistance. And once you start, momentum takes over. 2 minutes becomes 20. 1 page becomes a chapter. 1 chord becomes a whole song. Think of it like rolling a snowball. The first little push feels silly, it's just a tiny ball in your hand. But as soon as it's rolling, it collects more snow. It gets bigger, and eventually it's unstoppable. And that brings us to the third strategy, stacking momentum. The truth is, success isn't about giant leaps. It's about tiny wins that stack up. Every time you do something small, you build momentum for the next step. Clean your desk? Now it's easier to open your laptop. Open your laptop? Now it's easier to type 1 sentence. Type 1 sentence? Now it's easier to finish a page. That's momentum stacking. Think about it like Lego bricks. Each little brick by itself doesn't look like much, but stack enough of them, and suddenly, you've built something incredible. That's how momentum works. And the beautiful thing is, once you've built enough of it, it carries you forward automatically. So here's the big takeaway. Stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is like a friend who shows up late, sometimes doesn't show up at all, and definitely can't be trusted to carry you through your goals. What you need is momentum. And momentum doesn't start big. It starts embarrassingly small. Now, let me be real with you. There will still be days you don't feel like it. Days when you fail. Days when you fall back into old patterns. And that's okay, because failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. Every single person you admire has had lazy days. The difference is, they didn't let it define them. They broke inertia, one small push at a time, until momentum took over. Your dreams aren't waiting for you to be perfect. And once you start, even small, even messy, you'll find that momentum does most of the heavy lifting. So here's my challenge to you. What's one embarrassingly small action you can take today to break inertia? Not tomorrow, not Monday, today. Write it down, then do it. Remember, you don't need to figure out the entire staircase right now. You just need to take the first step. So, what's your first step?